"Fix this helicopter, I'll kiss you," the CEO laughed at the single dad. Until the room went silent. Marcus Webb had worked at Harrington Industries for 11 years. 11 years of early mornings, late nights, missed lunches, and never once complaining. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? He was a senior engineer in the maintenance department. A quiet man with grease under his fingernails and a heart bigger than anyone in that glass tower ever bothered to notice. Most of his colleagues knew him simply as the guy who fixed things, machines, systems, problems that no one else could solve. But what they did not know was that every single day, Marcus raced out of that building at exactly 5:15, not because he was lazy, not because he did not care, but because he had a 7-year-old daughter named Lily waiting at home, and she had no one else in the world but him. Her mother had passed away 3 years ago, and since that devastating day, Marcus had been everything: father, mother, cook, storyteller, homework helper, and the only person who could calm Lily down when the nightmares came. He carried this responsibility not as a burden, but as the greatest purpose of his life. And every decision he made, every overtime shift he turned down, every office party he quietly slipped away from early, was because of her. The executives barely noticed him. To them, he was maintenance. To the company, he was a number on a payroll sheet. To CEO Richard Harrington, he was practically invisible. One afternoon, the company hosted a grand charity event in the main hall. Wealthy donors, board members, and executives filled the room in expensive suits and polished shoes. At the center of the room sat a large decorative model helicopter, a prized antique that belonged to Richard Harrington himself, worth over $40,000. It was meant to be auctioned that evening for charity, but 1 hour before the auction began, the mechanical display mechanism inside the helicopter broke down. The propellers would not spin, the lights would not flash, and without its working display, the piece had lost its showpiece quality. Richard Harrington was furious. His assistant scrambled. 3 different technicians looked at it and shook their heads. The parts were rare, the wiring was complex, and no one had the knowledge or the tools to fix it in under an hour. That is when someone quietly suggested Marcus. Richard Harrington looked across the room at this tired-looking man in worn work clothes and laughed out loud. He turned to his board members and said with a smirk, "If this man can fix my helicopter in 30 minutes, I'll kiss him on the forehead." The room burst into laughter. People chuckled, whispered, and shook their heads. Marcus said nothing. He simply knelt down, opened his small toolkit, put on his reading glasses, and got to work. The room continued buzzing around him. People sipped champagne. Conversations flowed. No one paid much attention to the quiet man on the floor. 26 minutes later, Marcus stood up, pressed a small switch, and the helicopter roared to life. The propellers spun perfectly. The lights blinked in sequence. The mechanical display ran flawlessly. The entire room fell completely silent. Every single person stared. Richard Harrington's glass stopped halfway to his lips. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Marcus looked up calmly and said, "She's ready, sir." The silence in that room was louder than any applause. Richard Harrington walked over slowly. His face had changed entirely. The amusement was gone, replaced by something that looked very much like shame. He stood in front of Marcus, and without a word, he leaned forward and kept his promise. He kissed the man on the forehead. But then he did something no one expected. He turned to the entire room and said, "This man has been here for 11 years. I did not know his name until today. That is my failure, not his." He then announced on the spot that Marcus would be promoted to head of engineering operations, with a salary that finally matched his worth. Marcus did not cry. He did not celebrate loudly. He simply smiled, checked his watch, and said, "Thank you, sir. I need to be home by 5:15. My daughter is waiting." The room exhaled. Some people looked down. Some quietly wiped their eyes. Because in one quiet moment, a man who had been overlooked, his entire career had reminded everyone in that expensive, glittering room what real strength, real dignity and real love actually look like. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Kindness True Stories, where every story reminds you that good people exist and kindness always wins.